Okay, let's pick up for the last part of the notes for today. So last part we're looking at cell boundaries, kind of what divides the inside of the cell from the outside of the cell here. So some cells have cell walls. These are things like prokaryotes, algae, plants. Animals don't. So animals, you can that's why we're squishy. You can pinch your cheeks there, because animals don't have cell walls there. Um, and then cell membranes consists of that thing we call that lipid bilayer. And the key thing that does is it's flexible. It allows things into or out of the cell, so it regulates what goes on. And we call this selectively permeable. So it selects what can pass through. That's what permeable means. So it's selectively permeable there. So here's kind of a vision, an image of this. So here we've got the plant cell wall. You can see kind of this dark green here. And this is a microscope image of that. So the cell itself has actually gone away, but you still have what's left over from the cell wall behind it. And this is just a piece of wood actually there. And then inside of that, that cell membrane is just that little liner there on a plant cell. But again, it actually consists of two layers. I mean, you can see the two layers. There's one layer there and one layer there, or here you can see one layer here and one layer here. So if we look at that in a little more detail, we'll get to that in just a second. So we'll say most cell blank or porous enough for other materials, but strong enough to support and protect cells. So that's going to be cell walls. 24, nearly all the plant tissue called blank is made up of cell walls. That's going to be, I just mentioned it, wood. And then 15, besides supporting and protecting a cell, the cell membrane regulates or controls or selects what enters and leaves the cell. Any of those would work. And then looking at our visual here, so we're looking at a picture of the cell membrane. So cell membranes have stuff that sticks kind of up and out of them. This is a carbohydrate chain, but it could be other things like proteins or whatnot. And then if we look at kind of what makes up that membrane, it has this thing called the hydrophilic head, which is this individual kind of round part here, hydrophobic tails, and together that hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail make up a thing called a lipid. So hydro in this case refers to water. Philic means that it likes water, or phobic means that it is afraid of water. Now, they don't actually have emotions, but they're chemically attracted to or chemically repelled from water. And so you end up with these water-attracted parts on the outside, water-repellent parts on the inside, and together that makes up what we call that lipid bilayer. Now, what's interesting is all of these things can basically kind of float around relative to each other. So we call this the fluid mosaic model. So visually it kind of looks like this. You've got kind of all these little hydrophilic heads and these hydrophobic tails down below. But you just basically have these things kind of rafting around. You can picture like a swimming pool covered in beach balls. Like an individual beach ball can move around, but it's stuck to the surface of the water there, the surface of the pool. Same sort of thing kind of goes on with these cell membranes. So last question here, the function of vesicles. They transport synthesized proteins to the Golgi, where it modifies the protein and then eventually transports it out to be released there. And then our questions here. So which cellular organelle is primarily responsible for assembling proteins? Hopefully you recall that, and that was C, ribosomes. True or false, the cellular organelle responsible for capturing energy from the environment and converting it to a form the cell can use is the mitochondria, and that's false. It's actually the chloroplast. Right? And then that kind of, again, we went over kind of our objectives. We had lots of vocabulary. Make sure you complete the quiz. It kind of covers parts of 7.1 and 7.2. And then if you're looking for something to watch, I recommend this movie, Chasing Coral. I know it's on Netflix. It might be other places as well. But we just finished up the unit on ecology, and it really does a good job of looking at kind of what's going on with the state of corals across the world. They're dying, and why are they dying? So good information to be aware of. And then just kind of breaking down our next set of classes here. So the plan is that the 20th will cover cellular energetics and cell respiration. The 24th will cover cellular energetics and photosynthesis. They're kind of two sides of the same chemical equation. And then because this unit was so short, we just had the information I gave you today. Cell respiration and photosynthesis will cover. We'll have a review day on the 1st, and then an actual test, but it's not going to be like a full test like we had before on the 4th. And again, send me stuff if you're interested in music. Let me know what you would like to hear. Send it through the Canvas inbox. So that gets us to the end. All right, thank you so much for listening to the notes. All right.